Chapter 15. Sarah. As I stare at the tiny house, I'm filled with a sense of dread. I've avoided coming back as much as possible, but I have to get answers. With a sigh, I lock the car and walk up the cracked sidewalk to the faded front door. The knock sounds as hollow as my heart at this moment, but I'm still shocked by the face that appears when the door opens moments later. "Sarah, is that you?" My mother has aged since the last time I saw her. There are more lines on her face, and the circles under her eyes are basins that you could get lost in. A moment of guilt sweeps over me, knowing that I've caused at least some of this by not coming home more often. "Hi, Mom. Can I come in?" "Of course you can." She steps back to allow me to enter and then holds her arms open for an embrace. I should want to hug her, but all I can think about is how poor we were growing up, how her issues kept her from holding decent jobs, and how hard it was. But I swallow all of that down and allow her to hug me for a minute. "To what do I owe this pleasure?" she asks when I step out of her arms. "Matt said you were too busy with work to come by." "I am busy with work, but I needed to ask you some questions. Can we sit for a minute?" My eyes wander over the faded second-hand furniture and I point to the couch. "Of course." She sits on one end and pats the space closest to her. "What kinds of questions?" I press my lips together and inhale deeply. These are going to be hard questions to ask, but I have to know. I need to know about your disorder. When did you start suffering from paranoia? Her eyes crinkle with sympathy. "Are you having bouts?" I don't know. I'm hesitant to tell her too much, but I want to hear your story. When did it affect you and what was it like? My mother nods and looks away for a moment. This subject can't be easy for her, but I have to know. "Mine started when I was much younger than you, so while I know you must be worried about the genetic component, it is unlikely you would have bouts now." "But there are late-onset cases," I push. She sighs. "Yes, there are, but they're rare. Mine started in my 20s with emotional mood swings and insomnia. I was in college at the time, so I blamed it on late nights and too much coffee. The paranoia didn't start until a few years later, but it was almost always preceded by a manic episode. Have you had any manic episodes?" I think back over the last few weeks. There has been a lot of change, but I'm not sure I can point to a manic episode. I don't think I've had manic episodes or emotional mood swings. But I have had insomnia, and something feels off. I was late at work one night and heard a noise. No one was there, but I felt like someone was following me. There have been a few other things as well. My mother places a hand on my arm. "Those are all things that could be concerning, but couldn't they also come from working too hard or losing an employee? Matt told me you wouldn't be coming by because of work, and I heard about your employee taking her life. That's got to be difficult to deal with." "It has been," I concede, and for a moment I wish my mother would pull me into her arms and console me like she did when I was very young. But then I remember all the times she left us alone, or came home drunk, and I pull back. But could that really cause me to think I'm being watched or followed? I mean, she was an employee, but we weren't close outside of work. My mother puts her hand on my arm for just a second before pulling it back. "Of course it could affect you like that. Close or not, you lost an employee. There's got to be some guilt attached to that, even if it was in no way your fault." She says it wasn't my fault, but the tone of her words make me think that she doesn't believe that. At least not entirely. That she thinks I'm to blame for Claire's death, at least in some small way. But that's a topic for another day. Today I've got my answer. I'm not having manic episodes like my mother was, so mine must be something different. I am struggling with Claire's death, and it has been busy at work. Maybe I am just working too hard. I'm sure that's all it is. Maybe take a break and come home more often. You know you're always welcome here. Thanks, Mom. I'll try. As I stand, my mom's face falls. Evidently, she was hoping that I would stay longer, but I can't. I have to get back to work. Do you have to leave so soon? Sorry, but I have a campaign I need to work on. Thanks for letting me come by, though. You're always welcome here, honey. Somehow, I'm not sure my mother would feel the same way if she knew about my secrets, but I smile, give her a quick hug, and then make my exit. As I get into the car, my phone buzzes with a text. I frown at the unknown number, but tap to read it anyway. My heart drops as I read the words. I know what you've done. I glance around to see if anyone is watching me, but the street is still and quiet. So who sent me this? And how much do they know?